pop goes the culture. Myths and legends, grant and escape to heaven. A darker, taller tale gives a tour of hell. Pop goes the culture. Pop, pop goes the culture. Pop, 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 pop goes the culture.
Well, it appears Restore the Snyderverse movement has been underway. It came back from a dormant stage and now appears to be in full force for the past, I don't know, maybe even like a month or so, a couple of weeks or what have you. Spurred on is for the fandom anyway, where these images that Zack Snyder would tease on Instagram from his days of shooting Batman versus Superman, Man of Steel, and Justice League. So the black and white portraits he took of Ben Affleck as Batman, Cavill as Superman, Jason Momoa, and Joe Manganiello, and even Jared Leto as the Joker. That sort of thing in these black and white images. The very thing he did during the release, the Snyder Cut movement, where he would tease these stills from his version of the film. And they were all black and white and all this sort of thing. And, of course, that movement ultimately proved very fruitful. The film got released for HBO Max. And then there was a lot of hope that, he'll get a shot to do the follow-up films for Justice League. It'd be Justice League 2 and 3. And alas, that did not occur. I guess the numbers for the release of Justice League didn't quite overwhelm Warner Brothers. Since there was a huge contingent there that had no interest in ever releasing that thing, and were very much at odds with Snyder, and that whole story, was playing out. But Warner Brothers was a company that kept getting sold. So once again, you had a Zaslav comes in from Discovery, and even then, most certainly, if not outright expected it, certainly thought it was likely that he was there to get everything in order, try to polish what he could there, and then sell it, which is exactly what he did. And this is what is underway. And apparently, as I'm taping this in November, they want it done before Christmas. And it may even happen next week. I don't know, as things have played out for the bidding war that he wanted. And that occurred, and there's several suitors coming in. It seemed that Paramount was in the lead. Now Comcast is in play, so on and so forth. So it's been an interesting thing to watch, but it's an element that it's, so would the Snyderverse return? Initially, I thought probably not, because one of the big factors is so much time has gone by, and it's unfortunate, but and you can still make the narrative workable. It's just that you acknowledge that time has passed, but from the Justice League movie into your next Justice League movie or what have you. And ultimately, maybe some of the characters are going to have to be recast. So, but it wasn't completely ridiculous to suggest that something of that nature could occur. It just seems, well, they passed on it to begin with. Well, the factors there would involve the amount of money that would be necessary to fund a continuation with those actors in place. Whereas it was cheaper to do James Gunn's Superman because his new Superman doesn't cost as much as Henry Cavill's Superman. And that was borne out by the pay scale of the actors involved. And Nicholas Hoult was the highest paid actor. Well, he's a veteran movie actor, so he's at that level and that sort of thing, whereas Cornsweet wasn't, so he didn't cost as much. So that makes, oh, well, okay, see what you can do. And so he did. Now, if Superman had blown everything out and had been this billion-dollar movie and everything, this would be a different situation. It didn't. I've always said that I thought Superman had to be a great Superman movie. It couldn't just be good. It couldn't just be okay. And basically, I think it was just kind of okay for, people who saw it. I mean, not a lot of people turned out and this sort of thing. And then Gunn follows that with Peacemaker season 2, and oh boy, this, so, there's blood in the water. So when the announcement came, it's like, oh, it looked like Paramount would get it or whatever. Then the story was, Gunn's probably out when they go there. And Gunn's already no longer talks about his Gods and Monsters Chapter 1 of the DCU or anything, and now it's just his Superman family saga, which probably concludes with Man of Tomorrow. So there you are, but that would seem you come in, you scrap all that, and then you have yet another DC Universe approach with yet another Superman. Probably would not be David Cornsweet. It's too bad. I thought he did a good job as Superman, but I've liked pretty much all the actors playing Superman in recent years. But the situations surrounding those productions it ruined it for them. So anyway, it didn't seal the deal. So now I don't know what metrics any entities could be looking at, but right now it's looking like they're going to do some sort of continuation of it. Does it just mean the 2 Justice League movies? Maybe that's the deal. But we just have to wait and see how this unfolds. So there's been multiple articles. I follow Cosmic Book News a lot. Who basically curates all of this, but has actual direct sources as well. And this is the latest one as I am taping, hearing that Henry Cavill is back as Superman, Ben Affleck a possibility, Batman, and Snyderverse updates. So there you go. With Cavill, see, both of these actors in particular got screwed over by the shenanigans of the DCEU. Of course, in Affleck's case, he had his own personal troubles, but on top of that, compounded was the absurdities that went on with the production of Justice League and everything. It just really burned him out completely, and he gave up on his own Batman movie that he was working on, and that went over to be The Batman with Pattinson and Matt Reeves and all that. And then they get him to come back because they were saying, you know what, we're going to fix this up. We're going to reset everything. We'll use the Flash movie to do it. And we've got this idea for your Batman to do a Batman movie, and he's in the multiverse or something of that nature was supposed to occur. And so Affleck says, all right, he comes in. They scrapped their original plans for the Flash movie, which was to introduce Michael Keaton as the Bruce Wayne of the DCEU going forward after the changes, and basically Batgirl would be introduced as the main Bat hero and Bruce Wayne is kind of, well, he's old and retired, but being a mentor figure to the Justice League and so on and so forth. And Supergirl would replace Superman and all that. Then they, whoop, no, stop, scrap that. And they got Ben Affleck back in. He shot scenes for the Aquaman movie. You know, Momoa revealed that, you know. And they scrapped the Michael Keaton scenes that were shot for the Aquaman movie and put Ben Affleck in there. And so, and there were in-credit scenes for the Flash movie of Ben Affleck sending a message to Barry Allen that he's trapped in another universe or what have you. This sort of thing. And that was the continuation. And then Henry Cavill would show up with Sasha Calle. They paid him. They shot the scene, apparently. I didn't even know if they'd shot it or not, but he wasn't just Black Adam. He was going to appear next to her, and they would establish he's back as Superman and continue with Man of Steel 2. Both of them got screwed over. They had Henry Cavill go out and announce that, yes, he's back as Superman, and we're going to make a Man of Steel 2. Then less than a month or a month later, nah, never mind. You know, and so for him to come back, I would think part of this deal would be a Man of Steel 2, along with him participating in Justice League movies. So if this is the case for Affleck, really the only one who could talk him into coming back would be Zack Snyder, because he's openly talked about it. He generally has a real friendship with Snyder and likes working with him and all that sort of thing. And you know, I'm sure they both feel like they got screwed, you know, repeatedly. You know, and he's very sympathetic to that. So, yeah, the latest update on all this from Cosmic Book News is, I have an update on the return of the Snyderverse and what I'm hearing from my insiders. Before getting into it, here's the current situation. Variety reported that the Saudis are teaming with Paramount for a full WBD takeover, shortly after Paramount publicly declined the report. So no matter how this turns out, the bottom line stays the same. The Saudis want Zack Snyder back, and they want the Snyderverse restored. If the Saudis back Paramount and win, Snyder wins. If they back Comcast and win, Snyder still wins. Either way, Snyder comes out ahead. As, you know, Matt McCloy tweeted, the wild card is President Donald Trump, who has been reported to be backing Skydance Paramount. While Trump is said to dislike Comcast's CEO, my insiders point out that Comcast positioned itself for a WBD bid by creating a separate company to dump the networks Trump hates. You know, CNN. So, well, the Comcast network, you know, MSNBC, and that, which is now what? Well, MS Now, you know, whatever. But they would dump that. CNN comes with WB, so I guess they could dump that too. So anyway, so that issue may not stop anything. It's also out of the antitrust business of having, you know, you can only have one cable network and that sort of thing. But splitting it off into a separate company could resolve the issue, which is exactly what Warner Brothers' plan, which is underway. Now, a sale could change that. And it's just like Paramount was offering to buy the whole shebang rather than just the production studio and the streaming service. Whereas the cable entities go off into Discovery Global, and Warner Brothers is separate from that. So, looks like Comcast would do the same thing. And so they dump the cable entity and then take on Warner Brothers. So anyway, continues, my insiders told me Zach knows exactly what is going on with Trump. And that's why Zack posted the Henry Cavill Superman image on Veterans Day. So it was, this one. But, or maybe it was just because it's Veterans Day, but he wants to be in good with the crowd that is dependent on this. So here he goes. Update. The White House just announced a massive deal worth $600 million with the Saudis after a meeting with Trump. Well, the Saudis have his ear. So if they're saying, hey, look, we would really like to get in on Warner Brothers. So it's like, okay, but if you make a deal with Paramount, we're good. Maybe that's how it goes. We're like, all right. So, Paramount has tried several times, at least 3, I believe, offers to buy Warner Brothers. They were up first to go for it, and Zaslav turned them down. Well, if the Saudis come in, they can raise the offer. It's an offer Zaslav can't refuse. The amount of money, of course. And so that's the deal. Paramount was always the front runner in this. But yeah, when the sugar daddy shows up, that changes everything. So if the Snyderverse truly comes back, that means the actors return to the roles. Well, McCloy's told Henry Cavill is back as Superman. Gal Gadot is back as Wonder Woman. Jason Momoa will be back as Aquaman. Ray Fisher will be back as Cyborg. Yeah, and I think the idea that Zack Snyder's in charge, pretty much they've all spoke very fondly and highly of Zack Snyder. Ezra Miller as the Flash, I'm told doubtful, and that's because of Ezra's own scandalous problems. Yeah. So, probably won't be there. Plus, look, Snyder likes the guy, but he is just so miscast, So, that one will probably be recast. Will Batman be recast? Well, the biggest unknown is Ben Affleck. If you follow the last decade of drama, he's been burned multiple times, including being cut from the real ending of The Flash. As his insiders say, Affleck possibly returns as Batman, but warn, it's a lot of work physically. And that's one of the things. This has just been delayed and interrupted so many times. A lot of years have gone by. And you're asking this guy to, obviously, a stunt double does a lot of the physicality for it, but he's much older than he was from Batman versus Superman, where he had that cool warehouse fight, to save Martha Kent and all that. And he's probably not up for that anymore. So it's going to have to be a lot of stunt double doing that kind of thing. CGI Affleck's face his chin on the bat mask. And, I guess you're good to go there. Or it may be they got to recast it, and if they give him a Batman movie, then he can direct it, I suppose. But for the continuity and everything, it would be better to have the original cast back in place. But anybody else doing this besides Zack Snyder, it would be a no, I think. So it's possible, yes, he could talk him into doing this. So he's told the plan is for Snyder to finish his Snyderverse, which would be the 2 Justice League films. I'm told the Saudi WBD deal has been in the works for some time. It's also the reason Zaslav passed on Paramount's earlier bids 3 times. Because he knew this was waiting. Well, let me wait and see what they're going to offer, Zack is close with the Saudis, and they want his storyline back to rival Marvel in the upcoming Avengers films. Well, good Lord, they really got to hit the ground running, because the Marvel's Well, okay, yeah, they've shot the movie, but they're going to reshoot it to death, too. So. But there's no way you're going to have a Justice League movie out near, within the vicinity of Doomsday. That's no. It sounds like they're aiming straight at Disney. They are, because this also involves their desires for theme parks and this sort of thing, and that's why the Comcast thing. So, getting the IP out of, and they're going to want Lord of the Rings. They're going to want Harry Potter. It's not just DC. So this thing of partnering with Paramount to achieve that, but Paramount's not in the theme park business, but Universal is. So, but I guess investments there and licensing deals, they could work that out where those IPs are readily available to make rides and elements of the park, and they could do that. And so that's how you take on Disney. It's not just the movies. You got to have this theme park business going, maybe even a cruise line. I don't know. And the movies become advertisements for the parks and that kind of thing. So, but it's interesting if there's like, look, we're determined to get this IP. If we have to partner with Paramount instead, we'll do it. But then I'm like, well, but how do you work out the parks? But I guess it could be as simple as that. Well, we're invested in both, So after Snyder completes his arc, he's told DC will reboot again. Right. Which was always the plan. Had they stayed on course, this would have already happened. Maybe even David Cornsweet would be your new Superman after Cavill had done his Superman. And it would have already been underway. And apparently, like, Reverse Flash was going to be revealed to have basically created the DCEU through his time travel shenanigans, which would explain why the Flash is so messed up and he acts like Ezra Miller. And then you do the Flash time travel movie, and that's it. The universe reboots. It's all different. It's recast, and so on. Mimicking the restarts, resets, reboots that the comics have done these many years. So, and it would be a means by which, look, your actors are aging out of the roles. Now you can replace them with new, younger actors and so on. So there you go. Likely under Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi. Right. Which, again, they were the ones wanting Henry Cavill back as Superman and did that. Then Zaslav stopped that, put Gunn in charge, and said, no, we can't afford to pay that amount. We got to go cheaper. And I got this Marvel guy. He can do it. Well. So regarding James Gunn and the DCU, he's told that if Paramount and the Saudis are indeed teaming up, James Gunn's DCU is toast, and Gunn will be forced out due to Gunn's divisive politics. Gunn, the head of DC Studios, posted and said nothing on Veterans Day. Well, okay, his politics doesn't help, and it's more in Peacemaker than it is in Superman, but nevertheless, it's the performance. It didn't do well. It needed to do massively well. That's the position they were in. That's not really James Gunn's fault. It's the circumstances. But he couldn't seal the deal. He couldn't do it. So, but keeping him around as a talent to work on something else, I think if they could have gotten the Jason Momoa Lobo, which I still think they do. I don't care if he is playing Aquaman. And James Gunn directing that, I think you got a hit on your hands. That's more in line with Gunn's personality. So he says he's also been told that Gunn's Man of Tomorrow is just the original plans for Man of Steel 2 with Ray. Yes, I think that's yes. Yeah, the same thing with Lanterns, where you got Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan being a buddy cop thing, where Hal Jordan's older, more established, and Jon Stewart is the rookie. There was talk of that for a very long time. There was supposed to be a movie apparently starring Tom Cruise as Hal Jordan. And that would have been the DCEU Green Lantern movie. Either Hal Jordan dies at the end or he disappears. Probably more he disappeared because in the release of the plot points and outlines for Zack Snyder's Justice League movies was the Jon Stewart, even though in the Jim Lee drawings for it, it looks like Hal Jordan. But he said it was going to be Jon Stewart. He would show up searching for Hal Jordan. He's looking for Hal Jordan. Plus, he indicates that the whole damn galaxy or universe or whatever is in a mess because of Darkseid's victory, having achieved the anti-life equation. And, of course, the Earth is, you know, all wasted and devastated by the Darkseid's conquest of it, and Superman's been turned evil and all this sort of thing. And then Batman's got to make his time travel plot work with the Flash. So yeah, Jon Stewart shows up and becomes the Green Lantern of the Justice League for this final push to win the time warp strategy, what have you. And he would have been introduced at the end of Justice League, the first film, which Zach did shoot with the actor Carr, was his name? I'm forgetting his first name. But Warner Brothers said, "No, we got our own plans we don't want that." Even, okay, so he couldn't keep it in the film. But then by the third Justice League film, that guy shows up, and to work it out the way it's supposed to be was Green Lantern gets his own film, and that story is told, and the crime buddy thing would take place in outer space. Well, to make it cheaper, it's going to take place in Middle America with the Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart they have for the Lanterns HBO Max show. They said, no, there's a lot of space stuff in it. I'm sure, yes. But primarily, it's going to take place in a small town. But for a major movie, yeah, that would be more expensive and bigger budget and all that sort of stuff. And, well, that got scrapped. And that was always the overall problem with DCEU. To be a rival to Marvel, Marvel built their MCU off of movies that were connected. They come together in the Avengers, but they were their own separate films. So all you got was Man of Steel, and then you go immediately into Batman versus Superman. You really shouldn't have done it. A Batman versus Superman movie would be fine, but you needed a Batman movie to establish your DCEU Batman. You needed a Wonder Woman movie to establish her. That Wonder Woman movie was really one of the brighter spots of the whole thing, and that would have been fine, to see that before. It kind of fits as a companion to Batman versus Superman because you get some of the nods there about it, and Bruce Wayne discovering Wonder Woman's not all she appears and all that, or Diana rather. Yeah, okay, but you really need it. So I suppose either way you could have done it, but just to suddenly throw in the Justice League like that, it doesn't work quite the same way. And then you kill Superman. Of course, it sets up his resurrection in the Justice League and all that, but okay. But there was few and far between there. So you go forward, and after that, and you can have your other characters, Aquaman and the Flash, get established, and then they meet up in Justice League. That would have been a better way of familiarizing the audience with them overall, because you're essentially putting a television series in the theater. So the movies have to stand on their own to a point. This is true. You have to keep it that way. But there is that cohesion that can only be established by multiple films, hence the shared universe. For whatever reason, not whatever reason, they were trying to catch up. They were desperately trying to catch up. They'd sat around. DC was owned by a movie studio, Warner Brothers. They could have done this sort of thing. In fact, there was talks of that for years. Yeah, we're going to do these movies that cross over in the shared universe. Never did anything with it. Here comes little Marvel out of bankruptcy, forms its own movie studio. Makes money off, of course, licensing off their big stars, Spider-Man, X-Men. Then they make their money off of the Blade movies. That builds up their studio to make it for Iron Man, and there they go. And it dominated Hollywood for 10 years, whereas Warner Brothers sat on its ass. You know, they made Batman movies, who's their biggest star, sure, but it just... They didn't understand this, and then they come to it late. And then kept screwing up. The biggest lesson about Zack Snyder's Justice League is 11th hour changes. You got to decide that at the script stage. You can't do that after the fact. Yeah, but they did. And of course, Marvel didn't learn it either, because they reshoot everything to death to where it's impossible to make their money back. Anyway, so there you go. He's told that if Comcast Universal ends up buying WBD, there's a real chance Gunn could actually team with Zack Snyder for the Snyderverse return. His insiders say one idea being floated is Gunn writing the Justice League 2 script with Chris Terrio already having a treatment and Snyder directing. It would be a full circle moment since Gunn and Snyder both got their starts at Universal with Dawn of the Dead. That's a great film they did. It's really good. In fact, it's a damn shame that Gunn wasn't his partner on Army of the Dead. That's another thing is like, since then, that Snyder has done Army of the Dead and Rebel Moon. They're terrible. They look cool, you know, especially Army of the Dead. It's amazing what Snyder did with that. But story-wise, it's got, right off the bat, it has this massive plot hole in it. I'm just like, really? And then Rebel Moon, oh my goodness. And of course, you really got to rein that in, Zach. Come on. I mean, he did 2 Rebel Moon movies. It's Rebel Moon, the movie. No. He probably should have organized it as a series, but even that, I'm like, But the plot points of Justice League are pretty sound. You get rid of that business of Batman impregnating Lois Lane. We're good. Everything else can pretty much stay in play. Now, I'm sure they'll change things around, and because otherwise, hey, it's already spoiled. But ultimately, you know, defeating Darkseid becomes the ultimate outcome, you know. And then the Flash changes time. This time again. And then you reboot. And you get David Cornswood to dust off his cape, and then you get to be Superman again. You know, maybe. They may change it into a Crisis on Infinite Earth situation where they cross over the two DCUs. The one thing that bothers me about this Man of Tomorrow, and Man of Tomorrow would have been a great title for Man of Steel 2. Maybe it was going to be that. I don't know. But for Superman versus Brainiac, long overdue. And the cool way, this was never said or anything, it's just my, you know, headcanon or whatnot, was to have Henry Cavill do Man of Tomorrow, Superman versus Brainiac. And the Brainiac comes to steal Metropolis. Shrink it down, put it in a bottle. Superman saves it. He gets help from Supergirl, who would have been, I guess that would be Sasha Calle. He was supposed to appear with her at the end of the Flash movie. You establish that. Thanks to Zack Snyder's Justice League, Lois is pregnant with his baby. She's had the baby. Supergirl is kind of like the babysitter. You know, you can have this little family that Superman has established pretty early on. Brainiac appears. Superman is completely caught off guard, but Supergirl knows who that is. And that gives her a cool plot to play here as well. And that she was on Krypton when Kandor was taken by Brainiac. They could even toss in, I don't know if Michael Shannon would be up for it, to do a cameo as Zod witnessing his hometown being stolen. And that's one of the things that really pushes him to revolt against the ruling council and stuff. You could tie it into that. But nevertheless, anyway, so she fills in Kal-El on what this is about. And they go to save Metropolis. Lois is trapped in it with the baby and all that. And ultimately, Superman's victorious. He defeats Brainiac. But at the end, you give it a sinister little coda in which Brainiac says, "You've doomed humanity. I was here to save something of it. Now they're doomed." And Superman's like, "What are you talking about? You're beaten. I beat you." And he says, "Yeah, not me. That's why I knew Krypton was doomed. That's why I took Kandor. I'm saving these samples for posterity." That's what he does. And Earth is doomed, not because of me, but because he's coming. So who's he? Well, and by then, Superman would probably realize what he's talking about, because he's aware of the threat of Darkseid, but they don't know when he's coming or whatnot. But now he's really on the cusp of arriving, and Brainiac knows this and comes in to take Metropolis and leave because the Earth is doomed. And then you go into Justice League. So, he contacts Batman, and they're like, "Oh, crap." So then the Justice League 2 is Lex Luthor trying to solve the anti-life equation, that whole thing, and Darkseid appears, and they get their asses handed to them. Justice League 3, the Earth is dominated by the parademons and evil Superman and all that. So there you go. It plays out like that, and that would have been a great Man of Steel plot. And you get Henry Cavill playing classic Superman in that element, being Clark Kent at the Daily Planet and all this sort of stuff. You got Supergirl in there. He's raising his child with Lois, and then, oh crap, here comes the big bad, but he wins. But then, damn it, for David Cornsweet's Superman, it doesn't really work out quite that way. Now, he does have a Supergirl who's probably going to be there to tell him, "Oh my God, it's Brainiac. Oh man, he's really tough," and that sort of thing. So it could play out sort of like that. But oh man, that would have been awesome for a Henry Cavill Superman movie. So with Gunn hurrying up and doing this plot that he stole, probably scuttles that iteration to where Man of Steel 2 would be something else. But my guess is Henry Cavill really wants a Man of Steel 2, and to get him to come back while he's setting up all kinds of other, Highlander, his Warhammer thing for Amazon. Amazon really, it sounds like they're not going to cast him as James Bond. They really should have done that. Had they locked him into that, I don't know. He might not be available for Snyderverse or anything like that. But what have you. But to get him to agree to that after being screwed just about as bad as Batfleck was, so yeah, we're gonna give you Man of Steel 2. That'll be the deal. And he says, "Okay, I'm on board." That could be the deal. So, will it happen at all? Well, it depends, but that's a lot of money coming out of Saudi Arabia. And that was always the thing. It was the one element that could make this happen. There were rumors at one time that there were Saudis interested in buying Lucasfilm. It didn't happen. But it was the only way that I could see something like that. Oh, they're going to scrap the sequel trilogy and fix it and all that sort of stuff. It would take a massive sugar daddy to change the scenario. Same thing here. So what could possibly, at this late date, restore the Snyderverse? A massive sugar daddy. Maybe it's this guy. Snyder's there because he's involved in a movie he's doing called Brawler, which is about a UFC fighter and all that. And the Saudis are big in UFC. That's another thing they're investing in and for entertainment and all that. And yeah, he's been working on that movie with their investment. So the relationship is well established. And apparently Saudi Arabia's got Snyderverse fans to want to get Warner Brothers along with Harry Potter as well. So, and the film rights to Lord of the Rings and so on. So there you go. And theme parks galore. And they got the bucks to beat this out. And if they have to go through Paramount to do it, then they can do that too. You split up the companies, you still have your theme park involvement, you can kind of straddle the two entities. As far as it would be better, I imagine, for them to do it through one company and have it all sewn up. But I mean, they're going forward with it. They're going to build their parks, damn it. It's just a matter of the IP they could have in total, rather than just, paying a license fee and that type of thing. So that's what makes this believable. There really isn't anything else. Metrics-wise, well, Zack Snyder's films performed better than James Gunn's did. I guess that wins out too. And that there's still a fan base there, but previous people weren't all that wowed by it, But nevertheless, you got a massive sugar daddy here, and that changes everything. So that could be the deal. Yeah. So anyway, we'll see how this unfolds rather shortly, I imagine, as far as the sale goes and who gets it. And wait and see what their announcements will be on DC. And then, of course, all the rest, So it's cool. I mean, a lot of these failed films are flaws. They stumbled. The woke era did so much damage. It didn't so much touch the DCEU, except later with Birds of Prey and crap like that. But just all of that put together, it's just, God, what a mess. And then maybe this one will be the one that rights its ship. I don't know. But the only real entertainment out of all of that was these corporate soap operas. Star Wars stunk. It was terrible what they did. But man, that corporate soap opera was fascinating. So it's like Dallas or Dynasty, So anyway, you got that entertainment, but not much else out of that era. But well, we'll see what happens. But it's this isn't crazy. This is somewhat likely. So stay tuned.
And now it's time for the world's greatest superheroes band together as friends to justice. They are the best friends. Later at the Hall of Superdom, within the break room of said Hall of Superdom, we find Best Man, Maid of Honor, and Fireman deep in discussion. Well, so since that kid trying to copy my fire powers set himself on fire, well, of course, a lot of fire departments throughout the nation would appreciate it if I stop wearing the fire helmet as part of my fireman outfit. Now, they also wanted me to change my name, Fireman, but I mean, fire powers is what I've got, so what else am I going to call myself? So, as a compromise, yes, I no longer wear the fireman's helmet as part of my outfit. I just wear the mask. Well, that's something there, fireman.
Hey guys.
Rocket Man, what is it?
Oh, you're all needed in the operations room.
And soon, once again, in the operations room, up on the large monitor screen, the assembled best friends bear witness to something terrible happening at the oil platform in the Gulf of Mexico. It appears Pool Man has become enraged at Medicine Man and, using his watery powers, has formed a giant water creature to do battle with Medicine Man. Damn him, I should have known. Even when I provide a chaperone, I still can't trust Pool Man to do a simple mission of taking care of a giant sea serpent. Oh boy, alright, we gotta deal with it. And soon, Fireman, Maid of Honor, and Best Man can be seen flying over the skies of Gulf of Mexico. And upon their arrival, they see still Pool Man using his giant water monster to battle Medicine Man. Alright, gang. Fireman, use your fire powers to turn that giant water monster of Pool Man's into a cloud of steam. Maid of Honor, you use your healing powers to tend to Medicine Man's injuries. And as Pool Man drops to the platform below, well, I'll deal with him. And soon, the best friends go into action. Fireman swoops down and aims for the center of Pool Man's water monster. With a single blast of flaming plasma, the water creature is suddenly reduced to a giant cloud of steam. And soon, Pool Man, no longer within his giant water creature, plummets down to the platform.
What the hell's going on? Damn it, fireman!
Will Pool Man finally learn his lesson? And what about the sea serpent? Well, it's dead. But what about that? Perhaps we'll find out in the next exciting episode of Best Friends.
Best Friends is a Nailsin production. All characters are written and performed by me, Douglas Nelson, with music by Kevin MacLeod and other public domain sources.
It's said that King Arthur was Britain's greatest ruler. Well, he got the throne by pulling a sword out of a rock. This gave him a massive hernia. He turned to Merlin, but eating rat tails and rubbing frog guts all over will not cure a hernia. Anyway, he couldn't fuck all that well on account of his condition. So his wife turned to Lancelot. Yeah, he hired a guy named Lancelot to guard his horny wife. So Lancelot lanced her, a lot. Meanwhile, Arthur got seduced by his sister, and their inbred offspring did him in. It's all sad if not so stupid. Still, though, Britain would be better off with a ruler like Arthur today.
All right. Here we go.
Yes.
Snyderverse video was just that.
A video.
I'll put that one out.
On the channel.
Sometime later in the night or morning or whatever the hell it is. In the meantime, I've got to do some drawings for New York Post stories.
My
little segment that I do for the New York City Crime Report. Censored Compound TV, Compound Censored TV, something like that. Anyway, so there's this strange. Well, there's always a strange. But anyway, some guy using a cane walked up to some guy in the street in New York City and shot him after striking up a conversation. I don't know. But I will have to do these drawings and animate for the video, as I read the article, detail whatever info there is. That incident. Oh, there's an echo. Let me see. We probably don't need. Well, which one? That one? Does that take it out? I don't know. So nice you say it twice. Okay. Let's see. No, I need. Nope. How is it still? Oh wait. Maybe it's this thing. All right. Does that work? Of course, the delay on the video. I can't see. There it is. All right. We're all caught up. Thank God. It's all confusing. There's so many things you have to mute and unmute and all of this. Why? So I can get the super tip thing to work, which nobody gives me super tips anymore. But hey, look, I gotta try. Oh well, it's not gonna show up, I guess, because I have my camera there. So where's there it is. I gotta move it. Come on. All right, there it is. There's the address, or supertip.gg/Doug. Oh crap, the other one's there too. Well, I guess I don't really need that one now that I got that one. All right. Jeez. One day. No, it's never coming. It's always going to be a cluster, But anyway, we get the show. No matter how. So now I shall draw the image. First off, I'll have to draw the victim. Now, there's no pictures of the victim in this. Oh, crap. Let me get the mic as close as possible. Whoa, that's a lot of noise. In the hopes that you can hear me somewhat. So there's no image, so I just got to guess. Now, a lot of times when there's a nondescript character, I'll just put someone in a hoodie. That way I don't have to do their face or nothing. More times than not, that's reserved for perpetrators. Because they tend to wear hoodies a lot. And but then plenty of other people do as well. So it's probably in that neck of the woods that it's just a fashion thing that's very popular amongst a variety of folks. And especially now, it's getting chilly out, So odds are, hey, the victim here, minding his own business, was in a, well, that's probably too big, a little hoodie. Man, why does, I don't want you bouncing around while I'm drawing in front of God and everybody. So there we go. This will make the hoodie. We will draw the opening like that. And once placed into Photoshop, it will just be blacked out, So here he is. He's standing on the street. I don't know. Maybe waiting on a ride or something. Or waiting for the traffic to change. Something of that nature. And then along comes this character who may or may not know this man. They could be something like that. Like there's some vendetta between the two. The guy stole his wife. The guy is dating his daughter and he doesn't approve, because the perpetrator here is looks to be an elderly gentleman, uses a cane to walk. So here we go. This will be the image of our unfortunate victim. So the next thing, let's see, for the animation purposes, I'll have him turn his head. So all I got to do is draw the hoodie turning to profile. You know, so he's like, huh? Like that. And then, well, we'll have him turn to face the supposed gentleman. We now know he's not a gentleman. He's a violent criminal. Or maybe this guy had it coming, you know, like he really wronged this dude, and he was pushed to the bitter end here and can't take it anymore, damn it. And decided to take justice into his own hands. But of course, you know, there's laws against that too, especially for New York. I'll probably use the same head for when the body turns in the emanation, as Beavis and Butthead call it. We're gonna learn emanation. Anyway, that's how that'll work. So he'll be that. I don't know what color I'll do the suit. Probably just all one, or maybe just the basic gray. Probably add some color because the perpetrator is in sort of a dark navy blue long coat, and it kind of covers up everything else. Looks like black pants, either dark blue shoes, or perhaps they're black too. And that's about it. He's got like a knit cap on, and has a beard and glasses. Or perhaps that's just a disguise. You know, for Bayou Crime Report over at which the current episode, or I think there's two of them, on the Mr Nailsin Show, over at RadioMisfits.com or wherever you get your podcast. There was a guy who had a disguise to rob banks with. And he pretended to be a guy who needed a cane to walk. And so a lot of people, wouldn't look at him because it's not nice to stare and that kind of thing. And he hobbled in there, and no one perceived him as any kind of threat. And then, of course, I think he had a gun. Yeah, he had a gun, I believe. But anyway, he goes up to the teller and give me all the money, and all that sort of thing. And then as soon as he got the money, well, it turns out he didn't really need the cane. It was all a clever disguise. So perhaps this was a professional hit on this particular victim. And the guy said, I know, I've got to disguise myself. And also so that this victim won't suspect me. So he'll never suspect some elderly gentleman who needs a cane to walk, So he's just, I'm just going to walk up to him and ask him if he has the time, Of course, they say that the streetwise sensibilities of New York seems would come into play. And it's like he would not speak to him at all. But in this case, he did. He turned around and said, huh? Excuse me? What? And then guy pulls a gun out and shoots him. And then fled the scene. There's no details, though, as he suddenly just picks up the cane and runs away. And then you realize, oh, it was a disguise, How very clever. Yes, how very clever. So, there you go. That's how that'll go. And but as far as any other details, you'll have to tune in to New York City Crime Report. And you got to be a subscriber. I know. It's paywalled and all that. As for, I really need to get on top of that. A lot of those I would end up putting on my own locals, the NelsonRatings.locals.com. They will all be paywalled because, otherwise, why watch censored when I can just watch it here for free? then it's like, damn it, they'll figure that out too. So that's the deal. But it'll also, I upload it to Pat Dixon's locals as well. NYC Crime Report .locals.com, and quite a few of the New York Post stories videos are there, most of which are animated, even myself. And I better look at the picture here. Yeah, that's how he dressed. He's got a little white stripe there. But yeah, the New York City, or New York Post stories rather, is the deal. And trying to do those, and so far I've been pretty good at it. Every week, every now and then I'll do a New York Daily News story. Those are not as frequent, and do that in the leftist voice, because it's got a very leftist bit to it. So only leftist would be interested in the New York Daily News. But a lot of times, New York Daily News has pretty good crime coverage. I mean, every now and then they'll have their little bent on it. Now, but for the most part, it's just the details of whatever the hell happened. And every now and then, sometimes they'll have more of it. And it's like, a lot of times, both Post and New York Daily News cover the same crime. Sometimes New York Daily News tends to beat them to it. And other times, I don't know, for whatever reason, Post just doesn't cover it at all. And so you go to the Daily News. And that's how that happens. But it's amazing I get any of it done at all. It's rather time consuming. I want to do, the streams, I want to make the videos, I want to draw comic books, I want to do stuff, you understand? And so, it gets in the way. And I think I did one. I don't think Pat ran it. Where I had to I used Zoom so you could add in the fake like mustache and stuff to do Lefty. And jeez, that's embarrassing because I sat there, I had some I don't know, scarf or whatever, trying to look like some kind of hipster dude to be Lefty. And but usually I just do a cartoon version of Lefty to host the episode of the New York Daily News Stories with Lefty Tuddington. And speaking of Lefty, he has his own little podcast within my podcast called I Can't Even. Done quite a few of those. Those are archived on my locals as well, along with all the night and stuff. But the latest one I did was, of course, Lefty takes the side of Ruby Rose, who was furious at Sydney Sweeney for doing the Christie movie, about the female boxer who was a lesbian, And, of course, Ruby Rose, well, I mean, sometimes she's a lesbian, then she just says she's non-binary. She's had boyfriends, But, pursues the lesbian identity out of Orange is the New Black, and then She was Batwoman, who's a lesbian character, so on and so forth. And apparently, whatever the pursuit of making a film about Christy Martin's story, you know, like a lot of these movies, it goes through several hands and whatnot. And she was attached to play one of the characters in it at one time. And she was, of course, you know, still thinks it's the woke era, which it really isn't anymore. In order to play the part, you actually have to be the part, which is odd because I don't recall her ever having been actually Batwoman, you know, jumping rooftops and fighting criminals and stuff like that. But nevertheless, that's what her argument ultimately was. And Lefty took her side. So you can check that out on the current Mr. Nailsin Show over at RadioMisfits.com, or again, wherever you get your podcast. What the hell? Why is that? Why'd I set this? Well, a lot of good that did. No better than a string on the finger. I don't even remember. Oh, well, what are you going to do? So anyway, there's your victim here, you know, standing there, and then, huh? Yeah, man, what up? Hang on a minute. And he's got the gun in here. You know what's going to happen. That's right. Now, how do I animate this? A guy? So what I could do is separate the arm, pull it back, and then have it go back and forth. And then I just need, you know, the feet. Maybe like that. I can draw that in there. Yeah? Yes. Yes. Maybe like that. As he's slowly walking up upon this unsuspecting pedestrian, which is so much the case on the streets of New York City. Oh, yes, yes. Anyway, ought to work out. Sometimes there's kind of, well, it's stories that are just sort of, I don't know, someone got robbed, and you know. And then there's like a glut of them. There's quite a few that Pat Dixon won't have too much to look for. It's just a matter of which ones do you pick, you know. Stuff like that. So that kind of works right there. I guess I need to do the thing where he takes off, but there's no indication, unlike the Louisiana bank robber who was faking the whole thing. He didn't really need the cane. Just like a criminal scum. That's how they operate. So anyway, we'll see how that goes. I'm checking the article now. I don't see any updates. So they're looking for him. And that's how it'll go. But it's one of those that kind of works, even if by the time the Friday show comes along on Compound Censored TV, and it'll be live with Pat and usually Pete Panuccio, veteran NYPD officer, detective, all that good stuff. And boy, does he have the stories and the ins and outs, knows all these people. He's a great guy. And he usually sits in on the show with Pat. But you know who opens it? That's right, me. My videos, my cartoons, my videos. That's right. So it'll be this one. So it just says he fled, so I don't know. Because, I mean, he's on. He has to use a cane. How far could he get? So maybe he faked it. I don't know. That'll be part of the mystery. You know? Yeah, it will. Doesn't that add a little more to it? Wow.
It's like an episode of Law and Order, or maybe even Columbo.
Sir, I notice you have a cane up against the wall in your foyer, but you don't ever need it.
Oh, shit! Oh, no! You're becoming a nuisance, Lieutenant. I must ask you to leave.
You know, that kind of thing. It always ends the same way. None of them ever think, I want... you can address all your questions to my attorney. See, that pretty much... A lot of that would shut up Columbo. You know? It would defeat him instantly. You just say, I want a lawyer. But they're all... But, of course, it's the arrogance of the villain is the point of Columbo. They're all so damn full of themselves and arrogant. And they think, look at this stupid slob. In his silly raincoat and his crappy car with his idiot dog. This will be easy. And no, it's never going to do that. No. By your arrogance are you defeated. I suppose I could just use that. He turns around and just slowly shuffles away. Well, I got to have the guy fall down, of course. So, oh, crap. Holy shizness. Finally, super tips. All right. Let me make sure this will actually work. The overlay. Yeah, it should. All right. All right, we'll start with the text one.
I don't get super tips anymore. Why?
All right. Let me play that again.
As Americans, we deserve far better, more cinematic criminals. When was the last time you heard about a diamond heist with disguises, sleight of hand, maybe some CCTV hacking, or a hypnosis subplot?
At this point, I'd settle for a senseless stabbing perpetrated by a schizophrenic homeless man with a penchant for Rube Goldberg machines, or a strong-arm robbery using incredible martial arts skills.
That would make for some good. That would make a great New York Post stories video. Look, not that I'm asking for anyone to suffer these atrocities, but, oh, man, wouldn't that be great? Oh my goodness. Thank you, Lugs, very much. Now let me play the Pell-L one again.
I don't get super tips anymore. Why?
Exactly. Yes. Spot on. I don't get super tips anymore. See? I got 2 super tips out of that. Huh? There's something to that. I need to cry more. Man, damn it. You know, it's gone back and forth. Perhaps Carmack really is a genius. He's figured out a magical means by way. Oh, well. Thanks again very much. That's cool. Who doesn't love super tips? It's so cool with the voices and everything and all that. And that's another thing I have to get on. I have to send that. I did the night one, and I got to send that over to them in the hopes that I could get, voices like that. And the other characters from the audio plays of the Nailsin Show. Night, Sun King, Bubba Stargone, all that. Oh, I guess I'll throw in Lefty and Red Neckerton as well. Holy crap, a lot of people talk to me about the DCEU coming back and all of that stuff. Hopefully the video answered my thoughts. I did enjoy Snyder's DC films, despite their flaws. They are flawed. Justice League, his Justice League, is probably the best of the 3 that he did. The director's cut of Batman vs. Superman is far superior to the theatrical one. It's still a flawed film, especially since it was set up to do in one movie what Marvel had done with 4 or 5 movies at that point. So it was a bit foolish to think that, you could get to that. But Lug, super tip in your inbox. Yes, thank you very much. I like hearing them voices talking and see the heads bubbling. Yeah, exactly. It's like playing with dolls for grown-up. Yes. Samsung alarm. Yes. Samsung. Yeah, I just don't remember what I said it for. Whoops. I'm probably in serious trouble. Nodak says, well, Doug uses the same alarm that yeah. It's the one I dread when I have to get up to go to work, Pella, that reminds me. Pete says he's part of the Hulu docu Sex, Money, Murder released this month. Oh, wow. Holy crap. Damn, on Hulu. All right, cool. I got to check that out as soon as I'm done here. Damn, how did I miss that? I watched the show. I don't know. I probably let it run while I went and took a piss or something. God, what an idiot. I'm sorry. I apologize to Panuccio. But anyway, I'm going to check that out. Anyway, Nodak, if I ever have to use a cane, I'm going to be insufferable, referring to it as Michael all the time. There you go, Nodak. Oh, yes, and I did catch the Cavalier. Yeah. Or was that Pell-El? Well, one way or the other. You get the deal. Nodak says, it would be way more entertaining than just getting a ladder like in your, Plaidcore, is Doug Cry-Scream? Cry-Scream. I don't know. What is that? One of the Transformers or whatever? Lugs, you should get into a potentially ridiculous, unhealthy relationship and begin weeping publicly more often. People love that stuff. Well, I was in those. Will that do? Yeah, it only took a couple of decades to get over, But Plaidcore, yo, Pell-El. Oh, geez, is it get the... Oh, damn it, I can never remember. Damn it, Gitsy as well, doing pretty decent. Just taking a break from work. How you doing? Susan Dolan Doug, is the extended cut on BVS out on either DVD or BR? You mean, Blu-ray? Yes. It's been out a while. Luke's, we've all been there. Susan says, Plaidcore, depends. No, like, if you like the Cavalier joke, if you liked it, I said it. If not, I'd best not comment on that. What else have I missed? Dave Sarah. Hello, Dave. Hey, Douglas Nelson, Mr. Nailsin. That's right, one and the same. I know. Most people don't know that. Go in your setting and allow for all users to allow redirects. I want redirect my people to you. That's a YouTube thing, isn't it? And guess who doesn't know jack squat about doing that, So it would be the settings. Let me mute that crap. Well, not those settings. No. Well, it's not obvious to me. What about this one? No. Oh boy, what a how embarrassing. Again. Oh jeez. Okay, here. Maybe this. No. Boy, I'm trying to come up with a clever dialogue here. As I look through this YouTube nonsense. No, not that. No, not that. Anything but that. It's no. All this stuff is turned on, so I don't. Well, no, that wouldn't be it. And it isn't. Well, no. maybe this. Nah, no. I need to do better than, well, I'm looking at my little logo there. It's no, I don't want to delete the channel. Boy, wouldn't that be hilarious? Oh, wait. It's probably this. This is it. This is going to, no. Oh boy, this is, yeah, no, not that. No, I already know who I am, usually. Well, live. Oh, good. This one's live. All right. This. No. What is that? No. No. All right. Sorry, Dave. I'm too stupid. It's really embarrassing, right in front of everybody. Thanks for the effort. I appreciate it. But, I'm too stupid to know how to do it, so. But again, thanks. I appreciate the sentiment, and, we're in the holiday season, It's the thought that counts. So even though you won't be getting any Christmas presents, I did think about it, Just say that to everybody, I thought about you. I did. That kind of thing. It probably won't work. But you thought about me, huh? Sure. That stocking is empty. Plus, it smells funky. I gotta wash it. Hillel, Playground. It's stuck. I threw out 60% of the crap I had and never used. For moving. Okay. See, when you jump into a conversation, that's why not only is it rude, it's really stupid because you don't know what you're doing. You're as stupid as I am trying to set up the redirect for my channel so Dave Sarah can help me out. And what do? I screw it all up because I'm too stupid. Damn it. Well, it's just another thing. You probably missed earlier, the echo and stuff. Oh, man. Oh, that's always, fun. Yeah. All right. So the guy, he gets shot. So he's gonna I know I've already drawn this in previous ones. There's been a lot of shootings in New York Post stories. So here we go. He's like, oh shit, I'm shot. And I think the guy survived. But nevertheless, just because you survived getting shot doesn't mean you're like, okay, I got shot, but it all worked out. No, I think he's pretty upset about it. It's not like, we'll let bygones be bygones. It's okay. No. This is so not okay. Okay? So is not. No. It's not. So, there we are. Alright, he falls. And then I guess we're running out of space here. Kind of just sort of, and he falls down. Damn it. Oh dear. Oh dear me. I've been shot. Lead has entered my flesh. That's the other problem, It's like, oh, well, he survived, so it's okay. Well, not necessarily. I mean, his guts are all messed up, probably at that close range, and probably, right in the middle. I mean, unless the guy shot him in the head and it just happened to, because sometimes that does happen. They can miss, the gray matter. And, but then again, it's like, I don't know, you could be blinded in an eye or maybe both. Good Lord. And that kind of crap. But in the guts, good Lord, you may end up having to, you know, you end up with a colostomy bag or something, you know. It's not like you can, hey, can you just kind of shoot me and not kill me? You know, okay. No, it's not, you know, it's going to be bad. It's like you're not just going to get up the next day and like, well, that was weird, and then go about your business. You know, it don't work that way. It's pretty bad. Can be the same thing for stabbing, depending on how that goes. Yeah. And so there, I would do this, drop him, and then I don't know, he falls over or something like that, and that ought to work. It'll all happen very fast. See, all this drawing and stuff is only for a matter of seconds of the image. Jeez. I was thinking of drawing the guy running with the cane. But no, I think I'll just have him run across the scene off camera. You know, kind of like Tim Conway's old character, old man. That kind of thing. And, you know, no one did anything. They rarely do. I mean, so it's like that video with the guy getting in that woman's face, cussing her out, and there's a dude sitting there just pretending like he doesn't hear all that, even though he's in the next seat. And everybody's like, why won't the men man up? Well, let's say he did. People pointed out, well, after, you know, Daniel Penny, you know, oh yeah, good point. You know, even if the guy didn't, the guy was pretty fat, he might have had a heart attack or something if he ended up in a real fight, and that kind of thing. Then, you know, the guy's facing homicide charges, you know, at least manslaughter, when he was trying to protect some poor damsel in distress. Plus, the whole culture just craps on men, you know, their natural instinct to protect a woman. Completely attacked and drowned out, you know. And that big fat dude just screaming in her face. Fortunately, not much else happened. But, well, we've seen recently what can happen to young ladies on buses and trains. And it's beyond horror movie stuff, you know? So, yeah, I don't know. But then again, you know, there's always like, well, if I get involved, that's when the guy's going to pull out a knife or gun, and then you're the one with the colostomy bag. You know, that kind of thing. Sure, but still. Yeah. They're supposed to do the best you can to protect and defend, you know, women and children and all that. But the other thing is, maybe the Old West had it right. We should all have 6-shooters on our sides. And just have at it. And a lot of people just, it never occurred to me that if I start something, I could get shot, you know. Yeah, that might change the attitude. Not so much the nuts, you know, but some others, yeah, you might think differently. You might think differently. Yes. Yes, you just might. All right. There we have it. Let's see here. I can't stand it. I gotta find. Okay, the guy, as of this taping, did survive. He did survive. God, I'm giving the whole thing away, but you're going to want to see how it plays out, you know? Yeah. So you head over to compoundcensored.tv And, you subscribe, of course. But you can use the promo code PAT. I know, by a staggering coincidence, the promo code has the same spelling as Pat Dixon's first name, Pat. Well, not the full name, Patrick, but Pat, P-A-T. That's right. You put that in there, and you get a 10% discount. Oh, yes. Plus, it tells the overlords of Compound Censored that you're interested specifically in New York City Crime Report. Yeah. Now, if you're faint of heart and easily offended, is a reason why it's called censored. Oh, my goodness. Oh, good Lord. But, that's up to you. And so a lot of people saying hi to each other, all that good stuff. Nodak, have you tried Bing, 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 Doug? Bing, Bing, Bing. The search engine? Yeah, I at one point, yeah. Usually you use DuckDuckGo now, but anyway. Plaidcore, wow, at least you chucked it. Couldn't sell any. Okay, crosstalk there. Yeah, still selling old stuff. Susan Dolan says, Doug, I do Christmas shopping all year long. It's the only way to get presents. That's true. You know it's coming anyway. It doesn't matter. Even if it's like December 27th, and you're like, you see something at the store and you're like, I know that's a good one to get. And yeah. But I'm just lazy, Plaidcore for sure. I bet it feels good getting it all complete. Oh, more crosstalk. Fleshy part of the thigh. Could be, but then there is that artery, Yeah. Pillow, you were talking James Bond. Have the cane be a gun. Yeah, that's true. I don't think so. I don't think that's what he was doing. He had a... Man, that would be really something, wouldn't it? He's the cane man. Cane man! And he pulls it out. But then he's walking on it, so it's going to be all impacted with crap from the sidewalk and street and stuff. So when he pulls the trigger, it's going to backfire and blow up in his face. Probably blow his hand off. Wouldn't that be, justice? But anyway, Pella, all these racial debates are psyops to keep us fighting each other and not the gazillionaires taking our money. I'm showing off that I know about psyops. Yes, divide and conquer is an ancient strategy. And it's still around because it works. Yeah. Unfortunately. True. Pellel Pat equals Dixon / Patrick equals Melton. Yeah, I suppose to make up the difference, if Melton were to get a show on Censored, he doesn't. Well, never mind. If he did, the promo would probably be Melt. Or Mel. Could be. I don't know. That's how you do it. It couldn't be P-A-T because that would... Maybe Rick? Could be Rick. Anyway, Pell-El, LOL, the Kiki engine. Oh, yeah, she could start her own search engine. I mean, I don't think that's a great venture to pursue at this point. I think that territory is well established. But hey, you never know. Yeah, that wouldn't work either. I don't know. It's the future, you just don't know. So go ahead, get the investment, put out the Kiki engine, and then everybody, hey, what are you, stupid? Don't you know how to Kiki it? And all these politicians are going around, that's out there, Kiki it. That kind of thing. And then she'd be a gazillionaire. Imagine that. Then you'd all be sorry. Oh, you'd all be sorry for all your nasty jokes about Kiki. Hey, Kiki, remember me? I was... You're dead to me now. It's like... you know? It is all highly unlikely. But, you know, multiverse and everything, somewhere in the multiverse there is a world where Kiki's a gazillionaire, you know? Because everybody is kikiing terms and stuff. And even with the AI usage on it and all that, it becomes Kiki AI. It doesn't matter. She's got the money. I mean, how the hell is she going to burn through gazillion dollars? Of course, I don't know. She might be able to figure that out. She probably could burn through it. I don't know. But anyway, unfortunately, it is not this universe. It's some other universe, and of which we shall never encounter. Unless, I don't know, you can get the wormhole thing to open up and you can cross over into the other universe. I don't even think $1 gazillion would be enough to achieve that. I think you need, you got to collapse a star, probably 2 of them. Certainly for time travel, you gotta make the 2 wormholes kiss, you know, or make out, or, you know, fuck. And then you got to get in there somehow, and then you can go back in time. And but it's pointless. I mean, sure, you can go back in time and see how things were when your parents were young or something like that. But already you've created a divergent timeline, so you can never really go back to the actual past that you're from. You would go to a reasonable facsimile thereof, but you're already disrupting its very fabric in reality just by being there, because you don't belong there. You didn't exist in that time period. Now suddenly there you are in, I don't know, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, whatever. And you weren't even born yet. And then just by being there, and God knows what circumstances you create, the alternate version of you is never born. And then you're just this old guy hanging around your parents while they're really young, and they're like, "Get away from me, you disgusting weirdo." Even though you kind of look like Uncle Bubba or something, you know, Grandpa Buster or something, you know, that kind of thing. Susan Dolan says, Doug, a sword cane or laser cane are a lot cooler. I don't need bullets, but makes the same impact. Yeah, that's true. A blade coming out of it, you could do that. And a laser, yeah, it wouldn't matter if you had all that dirt and crap shoved up in it from walking on it, from using it as an actual cane. Then, holy crap. Yeah. I suppose like the handle, you could unscrew it, and if it's a pistol, that way it doesn't get all impacted with, you know, filth. Nodak Meltorme, what about him? I don't know. Pell, every question you ask the Kiki engine, its answers bing, bing, bang. Wow. Huh. Yeah, I wonder, what nonsense would come out of it, you know? Yeah, people want to look for actual facts, figures, real data. But in the Kiki engine, you get just incredible amounts of nonsense. And, well, that could be fascinating in its own right, you know? Pell liked that Star Trek TNG episode with all those enterprises. Yeah, exactly. They kept showing up in that one that was so badly damaged because they lost the war with the Borg. And he was like, "We're not leaving. You can't make us go." Fortunately, they blew up because the ship was in such bad shape. And, you know, Riker's like, "Well, that's too bad. Sucks to be you, you know." Anyway, Pell, or the multiverse where Karm rules the world. It's probably out there somewhere. What creates that kind of ego? Especially, he refers to himself as a reincarnated Nordic god or thunder god or something. Thor, I guess. But somewhere he's on that level, you know? And here he is, stuck amongst us ants. Pell, Ironic, Marty McFly took Doc Brown's car to save the past. Kurt took the Klingon ship played by Doc Brown to take. Good God! This is almost Kevin Bacon level of connection. Holy crap. There's something to that, you know. Susan Dolan heard from Kiki, hold my beer and watch me. Pell Riker was nuts. He sure liked to pose a lot, didn't he? That was uncomfortable. Can you imagine, you know, like your Data sitting at your station, and then here comes Riker's thigh? It's like, your sack is inches from my shoulder. Don't do that. Nodak, only one not safe for work picture shows up when you use, yeah. Yeah, that's another thing. Would that would probably be, would it be completely banned? You know, I don't know. Susan Dolan, Doug, I had taser cane, but laser sounds cool too. Taser cane. See, that could be a thing. I wonder how that would work, though. You got to have all the wires in it that would shoot out, and what to power it so that it can electrocute your perpetrator, your predator, the assailant, as it were. That's quite. Yeah, all kinds of possibilities. Then, of course, you could probably have the taser umbrella, like the penguin, you know. Look, it's Captain Finity, Time Travel Police. Better late than ever, Captain Finity. Yeah. So, all right. This I will put to use for New York Post stories. This unfortunate gentleman was just minding his own business, and then suddenly the Cane Man appeared. But let's hope he pulls through. And what a strange occurrence. Some of these, and of course there are random attacks these days, and it may just be as simple as that. Just some weirdo decided to shoot this guy. And he's just walking around in New York City, you know? And I don't know. He just didn't like that guy. Maybe the guy was standing. That's my spot. I like standing there. Of course, seems like he would have just stayed there after the guy fell over. Oh, now I got my spot. And he stands there. I don't know. But these things happen. So you just never know. You never know. So everybody be careful and safe. And always be aware of your surroundings. Because somebody shows up, I don't care. You kind of feel bad for him because he's got to use a cane or whatever. Don't talk to him. And absolutely, under no circumstances, make eye contact. Just get where you're going and get the hell out of there. In fact, due to recent electoral results, if you can get out of New York City, I suggest you do so. Yeah. It's all very sad, you know. Oh, well, what are you going to do? They thought a communist would be great, you know, despite having, I saw some article was like talking about, Mamdani is going to be the first socialist mayor. No, Bill de Blasio. And I mean, you can argue some others, but yeah, that's what de Blasio wanted. And you'll get more of the same. Now, he's promising the moon and everything like they always do. But, and of course, he's, you know, restricted due to the powers that the mayor actually has. But what a mess he can have. They're wondering whether or not he'll let the police commissioner stay on. And, hey, we kind of made fun of her over at New York City Crime Report, but actually she made a lot of sense, and her ideas would have been for the better. But she's not going to get any of that from Mamdani. He's talking about an army of social workers and that nonsense. Holy crap. Oh, my God. It's going to be bad. And the only saving grace is, hey, it won't be as bad as he wants it to be. Yeah. So, yeah, if you can leave, you should. I know, it's sad to say. And, you know, for you, it's home. It's always been home, you know? But these things happen. You know, fortunately, you know, I have to leave home when the hurricanes are on the way, when it's directly coming this way. Now, granted, that's temporary. It's not easy. I can't imagine. Just gotta, which may have to anyway, but to leave permanently, you know, because this is a hurricane that's going to stay. At least the hurricane is, you know, it's a matter of hours. It leaves a lot of devastation, and it takes forever, damn near, to rebuild and all that. But this Hurricane Mamdani, ooh, yeah. So anyway, that's the situation there, and what else can you do? It's insane and sad. Susan Dolan, Bud K. Knives had a taser cane that cranked out 3 million volts, guaranteed to stop a charging bull. Well, that's what you need. Yeah. They probably wouldn't allow that in New York, but, you know. Plaidcore, that was the best of the worst latter next generation Riker getting chicks. Oh, yeah. He got laid a lot. Pale Plaidcore, I wonder if Riker getting chicks was an ode to Kirk getting all the green alien chicks back in the... Yeah, I think so. They weren't quite sure how this would go. You know, they wanted to shake it up. They didn't want to be an absolute copy of the original show, and that's right. You don't want to do that. So, you know, they put in Patrick Stewart, and they kind of thought if they needed some guy to be the fisticuffs guy and whatnot, they put in Riker, who's kind of, you know, a Captain Kirk-like guy. He's just not the captain. And put that in there. But as it went through, you know, Patrick Stewart, and of course Patrick Stewart wanted to be an action hero type character, especially in the movies, you know, and that kind of thing. So that's how it works out. But yeah, I think that was the thinking. And then, I don't know, they're saying he's just a Kirk ripoff. Well, no, he had his own story and elements to him, really based on the templates for the Star Trek Phase 2 series, which became the motion picture they were going to do, because Ilea is Troy and Riker is Decker, and you got the same scenario there between that, with that narrative of their romance and everything. And that would have been throughout the series. Well, it got scrapped, so some of those scripts survived, and they reused them, repurposed them in the Next Generation first season. And so you get an idea of kind of what it would have been, kind of sort of, with Kirk being the older captain and then the younger Decker probably doing more of the action stuff and that kind of thing. And then in this case, it was Riker, but you still had the same sort of element with Troy, and they didn't ask her to shave her head or anything like that. And so that plays out there. Susan Dolan says, a word to all New York City pizza parlors, come to Iowa. We love pizza, and the majority of our politicians aren't commies. Yeah. See, there's more of an incentive to make good pizza when you can keep more of the profits from your good work. Pelel Mamdani? More like Mon-Commie, am I right? You are indeed right. Yes, I'm afraid so. And for whatever reason, the old con of free shit still works. It ain't free. Well, of course, it's going to be financed by getting the wealthy to pay their fair share, which they never do come up with the metric for it. Certainly not for themselves. And then what do you do when the wealthy leave? Yeah, they can do that. It's easier for them to do it than anyone else, you know. Still, they'll be pissed and, oh, man, New York was where it was cool and all that sort of stuff, you know. But you got to leave because they're going to fleece you, you know. So then they try to come up with things like whatever business entities you have ensconced within New York. Oh, we still collect it even though you no longer reside here, and all that kind of thievery they engage in. But yeah, you got to completely divest from it and go to Texas, go to Florida, something of that nature. Maybe even not that far away, is still in blue territory, which is quickly all of that's going communist. You know, the commies are in control. In the old days, it's like when it came to voting, well, mostly Democrat. What are your choices? Well, if your choice is communist or criminal, you vote criminal. Because at least you can make a deal with a thief, you know? Communists. Yeah. They'll do you in, you know? Trying to smash your round head into that square peg, you know, that's what happens. Because unlike capitalism, communism absolutely refuses to recognize human nature and all other aspects of, you know, that little thing known as reality. You know who wins all the time? Reality. But they can do so much damage along the way. Yeah. Yeah. Again, all very sad, if not monstrous, you know? Yeah. But, well, these are the things. I guess. And people say, oh boy, well, this could be a good thing. Oh, they really got to learn. It's going to be so bad, they'll never do it again. They will. I mean, after de Blasio and all that, I don't know how you could be so stupid as to fall for someone on the level of leftism that Mamdani represented himself. Sure, he put on a smiley face and all that stuff, but you've been through this before. You know, it's the window dressing. That's it. Plus, the added element that he's never held a job. He's a mama's boy. He tried to be a rapper. He wanted to be a star. He was in, his mommy directed a movie, put him in it. Yeah, and no, he's going to run this massive city, you know. Just that alone should have been enough to, yeah, no. Luke's 2014, no one should be a millionaire. Luke's 2018, no one should be a millionaire. Luke's 2025, no one should be middle class. Yes. Meant to say billionaire for 2018. Yeah. Yeah, for some reason you're not allowed. As if, who the hell are you to dictate this? Yeah. I mean, they act like they're running for title of God. Oh, wait, yes. Yes, that's it. Luke's, it would be better to live under robber barons than under omnipotent moral busybodies. Yes, the robber baron's cruelty may sometimes sleep. His cupidity may at some point be satiated. Stupidity, perhaps? I don't know. Susan Dolan, according to commies, if you make a combined income of $50,000 to $100,000 and own 2 vehicles and your house, you are the rich that has to pay your fair share of. Yeah. They're never going to quantify it or anything like that. And yes, it's always the middle class that they soak while claiming to be the champions of it. They were never the champions of it, and they're just thieves. You know? Imam Donnie's not alone in this. Most of these guys, even these old corpses that just won't leave, they were never, most of them didn't have jobs the likes of which the citizenry have. Just the basics. You know, it's like Obama, you know, a teenager who was an assistant manager at McDonald's had more managerial experience than Obama, even to this day, had. Yet it give him the top job, you know. But Luke says, but those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, for they do so with the approval of their own conscience. Yes. You know, they're better. C.S. Lewis said that. Yeah. Susan Dolan Orwin said that you can't see that a person's obeying your dictates unless you're suffering. The more suffering, the more obedience. Well, ultimately, it's a worship of power. And what is power? Well, it's not necessarily wealth. It's not the ability to go wherever you want, do whatever you want. It's the ability to make people do what they do not want to do. Ah, that's power. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, that's ultimately what they're going to want, yeah. You know, compared to the totality of human history and whatnot, we've been living in paradise. Yeah. And for no damn good reason at all. It's in serious danger of collapsing. That dog-eat-dog world you see overseas and all, that's the norm. It's always been that way for the totality of human history, of civilization, all of it, yeah. This era, this Western civilization era, is weird. It's never been like this. And it's amazing it lasted as long as it did, which is a blink in the eye for, again, the totality of human history. So, what are you going to do? Good is power, and power is God. Well, that's the thing. If you're pursuing power, you're committing the blasphemy of assuming godhood. You know? That's why the irony of it, like the theocracy being a means of government. Well, theocracy itself is blasphemous because it's the means by which man becomes God by proxy. Because, you know, the leader, the mullah, the president, the king, whatever he is the one claiming to have God's phone number, and you don't. So you better be good to me. You better be good to me. Yeah. That's how it works. Luke says even the Wild West wasn't that bad compared to everything else. No, at least they you know, you're on your own. You had that going for you. Yeah. But, you know, you're stuck under the boots of the aristocracy, and no matter how hard you work, you get nothing for it. And they just, you know, they tax them all into poverty and whatnot. That's the whole misconception about Robin Hood. You know, well, he stole from the rich and gave to the poor. And who were the rich? Well, the aristocracy. How did they get rich? They taxed the poor. You know, they pretty much already owned everything before you even get to it. So whatever farms they had, livestock, all that stuff, the work they did, they took a good portion of that, you know. And if they kept any of it, well, you're going to the dungeon, that sort of thing. So, no, Robin Hood stole from the thieves and gave it to their victims. That's pretty much how that goes. So it's like,
Yes, I'm practicing Robin Hood economics. That's a good thing.
but he never understood it, you know. Now, granted, it's just a fairy tale and whatnot, even though it probably was an actual Robin Hood, that kind of thing. Like even King Arthur, there probably was one of those, probably more of a chieftain than king, but nevertheless, tales, there's a couple of them that I think probably inspired the myth. You could even go back to Hercules and say there probably was a guy named Hercules. You know, he didn't hold the world on his shoulders so that Atlas could go get the golden apple or whatever the hell it was. But, you know, some exaggeration. And he was probably a very charismatic man, and a lot of people in the tribes and stuff looked up to him. Long after he's gone, they're still talking about him, and then it develops into this story. Same thing with Robin Hood and all that. Yeah. Luke's, I thought it was cool learning the original meaning of outlaw. It meant you were outside the law, and so it wasn't a crime to do anything to you. Yeah, because you're beyond its jurisdiction. So they're like, oh, someone shot and killed my husband. Yeah, well, it happened over there. We ain't got nothing to do with that. Lugs, you could be robbed, killed, etc., and the authorities had no problem with it. If you were an outlaw. Yeah, you're not one of ours. We don't want to mess with no man's land. Lugs, investigating the murders of criminals is a relatively new thing, LOL. Lugs, criminals who are murdered, Yeah, well, that's kind of the attitude, is like the gangster days and stuff. Look, they're just killing each other. What do we care? Not so much today, is it? You know? But then, of course, there's always the stray bullets. And then they muscle in on people trying to run a business, trying to run a restaurant, and here they show up. Well, you got a nice little diner here. It'd be ashamed if something were to happen to it. But you know, if you purchase my insurance, that won't happen. Because he can guarantee that he will not burn down your restaurant, provided you give him 10%. That's how that works. Except, of course, the government comes in. Hey, we're the ones who take a little more than 10%. And not you gangs. So you see the irony in it all. But the feds were always the biggest gang in town. Yeah, that's how that works. A giant protection racket. Oh, geez. Now I'm all depressed. But anyway, there we go. Oh, wow, look at that. I managed to do 2 hours. Isn't that nice? Sometimes even poor, stupid, clumsy Doug can do that. Yeah. All right, last one from Susan Dolan. If you've ever watched The Adventures of Robin Hood with Errol Flynn, Basil Rathbone and Claude Rains, in the scene where Maid Marian is riding a Palomino, that was Roy Rogers' Trigger. Good Lord, that was Trigger? I didn't know that. So Trigger really was an actor, had a career and everything, was in a movie. And now he's in a museum. Roy had him stuffed, you know, because he couldn't let go of him. They'd been through so much together. Probably, maybe his wife was more important. I don't know. I remember her joking, he'll have me stuffed too, you know. He didn't, I don't think. So, gee, Trigger was special, yeah. Lugs, it's an old joke, but remember, God himself only asks for 10%, and only if you can afford it. Yeah, right. He doesn't pull any of that stuff. The government doesn't see it that way, you know. Pell, that's what former mobster says, Michael Franzese. Yes. Well, yeah, that was the thing. You know, hey, we're just doing what you're doing. And who's going to argue with him? Yeah. Yep. Plus, you do get the protection. You know, I mean, there was other gangs around. They were trying to muscle in on it. So, you know, the mobsters had to beat those guys down and, you know, give protection, not just from themselves. You know, and it's like the government's a protection racket, too. That's why you have like, gee, why do all these billionaires get in bed with them? Because they have to. That's the power. And the power says, oh, boy, I'd hate to see your corporation go down the tubes. You know, and then, oh, okay. So suddenly they got to pay into it. It's like one of the things people missed about Microsoft in the 90s when they got sued over their search engine being, you know, placed in Explorer and all that. It wasn't a real antitrust case, but they were going to nail them anyway. Suddenly they cut a deal. Well, Microsoft didn't have a lobbying firm, which is actually quite extraordinary. But they didn't. They're like, yeah, we don't need to pay into that crap. Oh, yes, you do. Oh, they were not going to let you get away with that. Because how are their wives, their kids, their extended family going to be able to milk taxpayers if they don't have their consulting firms being utilized by wealthy entities? You see? Yeah, they can't do it directly because they're the ones that are in office, like Biden, his brother, and then his son takes care of that. You see, and so you got to pay into it. And there was Microsoft thinking, we don't have to pay for a lobbying firm. And they're like, oh yeah, you do. So they took him to the woodshed, spanked him into the pathetic idiot he became. You know, suddenly he was all for Common Core and, you know, fake beef and climate change, all that stuff he had to pay into, rather than just trying to beat out competition in the competitive world of software and all that stuff that he was doing. And it's a powerful lesson for that. You know, it says, yeah, you gotta hire our firms. And that was both parties fine with that because they all got, their interest in consulting. Yes, consulting firms. Because see, even if you're there in Washington, D.C. long enough, if you're only a congressman for 2 terms, you've lost, you're stupid. But if you're there for a good long while and you can move on to the Senate or something like that, or even if you move on to be mayor or governor, or you've been there a good enough years and you've racked up the necessary contacts, yeah, you can retire and become a consultant. And then you're the one who navigates that shark-infested sea at the seat of power for all these corporations. Because if they don't, oh boy, you're taken to the woodshed. And then after that, well, what's the protection? Well, you're protected from the government. Sometimes you can get exemptions from necessary taxes and fees that was supposed to save the world and all that. But no, you're fine. Then there's the other thing that's always creeping on you. You were the hot young thing at one time, and now newer, younger companies and businesses are on the way who figured out a new way to do what you did. And it's faster and better. They're younger, they're hungry, and they're pursuing it with everything in their youthful energy. And that's a real threat. Well, your protection racket can destroy that little bastard because he can't pay the protection racket. He's not rich yet. It's too bad. He had a cool idea. People really would have liked it, but it'll never happen. Yeah, see? That's what power is. Your billions don't impress people that much when you don't have power. All right, so there we go. We've had a great lesson. We learned about Snyderverse perhaps coming back. Tomorrow we'll get a story saying it's all bullshit and not happening at all. I don't know. But it looks likely in the scenario as presented and the players on the board. So we'll see how that plays out. I gave you a little tour of some of my little drawings that I will animate for New York Post stories for New York City Crime Report on compoundcensored.tv. And I hope you enjoyed spending some of your time with me this evening and or morning. Oh, good Lord, it's almost 4 o'clock. I'm in Central Time Zone, so it's almost 4 o'clock for me. But anyway, there we go. Hopefully you had a good time. Listen to me ramble and babble and all that good stuff and draw. And we'll do it again soon, I'm sure. Pretty sure I'll be on Pop Culture Breakdown later this evening for Wednesday. And, gee, I wonder if Snyderverse will be on that docket. We'll see. And we'll do that. And probably a Nailsin News. I got a bunch of stories racked up, and probably do that later Wednesday night. Unless I'm just too exhausted. Oh, it could be like that. You just never know. But anyway, that's the deal. Maybe hop on Pat's stream if he does one. And well, look forward to all that goody gumdrop stuff. All right. Have a good rest of your evening and or morning. And we'll meet again. Oh, wait, I'm not even set up to leave. Oh, geez, that's embarrassing. Oh, geez. But you know what? One of my longtime companions has been embarrassment. Oh, my goodness. It doesn't even have the impact it used to have. I mean, back when I was a chair, it was devastating. It was the humiliation. But after a while, you become numb to it. You're like, yeah, whatever, Shizness happens. It does, doesn't it? It does. I guess there's no end to it, really. Yeah. Anyway, talk to you again soon. Thanks for watching.
Hollywood could really wish they would. There's no debating. All that's left is the Nailsin reign. The first feast from the corpse of the beast. Only after the feel of the vulture. Pop goes the culture. Pop, 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 pop goes the culture. Myths and legends, grants and escape to heaven. A darker, taller tale gives a tour of hell. Pop goes the culture. Pop goes the culture. Pop, 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 pop goes the culture.
this is your ass. This is your ass in prison. Any questions? This has been a public service announcement reminding you that if you do the crime, you will do the time. Hard time.